Hello, Dawn Moore at Allegiance Title Company. Today's video is in response to a request by an agent to address the increase in active kickout offers. Active kickout is an MLS term, and I'm not confident to its actual meaning, but I assume it has to deal with contracts that are contingent on sale of other property. With this contingency, the seller has the right to accept a backup offer, give notice to the primary buyer, and require the buyer to either waive the contingency for sale of other property or terminate his contract, thereby allowing the backup to move into primary position. I have addressed this issue in past videos, but with the increase that we are seeing in the market now, I think it is a good time to review. First, I have said this before, that the sale of other property contingency is technically built into the third-party financing addendum for credit approval. The third-party financing addendum says that this contract is contingent on lender's approval of the buyer's assets, income, and creditworthiness. If buyer's assets are tied up in the proceeds of the sale of their home, then the third-party financing addendum credit approval is conditioned on sale of other property. If that is the case, then it might be in the best interest of the seller to add the sale of other property contingency addendum. This would allow the seller to accept a backup, give notice to the buyer, and require the buyer to specifically waive that contingency or terminate the contract and move the backup into primary position. This option is not otherwise available without this addendum. The next step I suggest for a seller, however, is to make sure that the seller requires enough additional earnest money to waive the contingency to make it meaningful to the buyer. In this market of low inventory and where buyers have lost out on multiple offer situations prior to entering this contract, buyers are willing to risk more than they were before. The buyer is willing to waive the contingency, even though he needs to sell his home to buy this one, if he feels his risk is worth taking. The additional earnest money required to waive this contingency must be meaningful and put the buyer at risk. Finally, tip for the buyer. The contingency for sale of other property under the addendum is not actually the sale of the property, but is receipt of the proceeds from the sale. Buyer must make sure that he closes early enough on the sale of his other property to be able to receive the proceeds, whether this means actual receipt or receipt by the title company who is handling the buyer's purchase, by the deadline in the addendum. These domino closings that occur late Friday afternoon at the end of the month are problematic. The buyer must meet their deadline under this contingency, so plan accordingly. I have discussed these tips in past videos in more depth, so please feel free to go back in our archive and review the videos. In the meantime, if you have additional questions, please email me at tipoftheweek@allegiancetitle.com. I appreciate your support and your watching these videos. If you keep watching, I will keep talking. See you at the closing table soon. Thank you.